Welcome back to the Nikki Clarke radio show. The show is about transformations, conversations that matter. People from all walks of life come on the show and share their heart stories. And it's to help people get unstuck, to be informed, uplifted, and transformed. So we are so honored to have a fantastic woman on the line. She is a best-selling author, inspirational speaker, 2-time TEDx speaker, a poet, a philosopher, a comedian, passion advocate for giving a voice to the voiceless, and a mother. Please welcome the incredible Merav Richter to the show. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nikki. That was such a wonderful introduction. I feel so warmly received. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so happy that you have time for us today because I know you're a lady on the go. So I guess we'll just get right to it.
Balls up in the air, yeah. Isn't that true? Like ladies today, right? Women today, we've got all the balls up in the air, and somehow we keep juggling them.
Exactly.
My pleasure to be here.
With such grace and perfection. Yes, we're doing it very well. And I just wanted to get to know more about what you do. So can you tell us a little bit about your background leading up to being all the wonderful flashes in your great journey?
Yeah, I'd love to share that, actually. And it really comes with a story of, almost a midlife, I don't want to say crisis, but let's say a midlife evolution. And I love actually how you said, that transformation through the heart. And really that's exactly what happened to me. When I hit that magical age, right? Like they say 40 is the new 30. I went through that a few years ago. So basically my story, I started back in my early life. I really wanted to be an author. And there were only 2 things I ever wanted to be when I was little. It was an author and a stewardess at the time. And I had a lisp when I was little, so it was a stewardess. And when I went to go to the guidance counselor at high school, they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a stewardess. They said, well, okay, that's fine. You can do that. But, that's not really academic. I mean, you really need to choose what you're going to learn and study in university. And that's okay as a side gig or as a part-time job. But what are you going to focus on? And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, I want to be an author. And she goes, oh, well, that's nice, dear. I mean, that's something that you do once you've evolved and you're a little bit older. You get into a little bit more of your wisdom years. Once you've lived a little and experienced, what do you want to do before that? Like, what do you want to study? What do you want to be? And I went, well, I don't know, a philosopher? And she went, oh, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now, this is academic, right? This falls into academic, the academic box. What kind of philosopher do you want to be? And I'm like, gee, I don't know, a Greek philosopher? I don't know. What kind of philosopher can I be? And so, but it's all things happened exactly as they should. That guidance counselor, as tunnel visioned as she was with only academic, she really set me on a great path because I did go and pursue my dream when I was young of becoming a flight attendant. What was a stewardess but now becomes a flight attendant because we've modernized. And I did go on to study philosophy, though not Greek philosophy, many other philosophies.
Yeah.
And then, but I still put that being an author part on hold, and I kept it in the back burner. And there I was traveling around the world studying philosophy, really going around the world, learning about all these mystical traditions and spiritual traditions and all this folklore and the storytelling of those different cultures, and really becoming a student of the world, and going on and having my kids. And then when I turned 40, there is that thing that many women experience. I mean, it's 90% of the Western world is adrenal fatigue, right? Our cortisol is through the roof. We're the I got this generation of women, right? Like, I got this. Work and home and babies and diapers and, pile it up, parents, all of it, right? Just pile it on and I got this.
Right,
right. Like like many of us, and I don't know, maybe you experienced this too, that one day, well, at least for me, one day I woke up and I was overweight, overworked, overwhelmed, and just over it. Like I didn't recognize myself, and I didn't recognize myself from that young woman who had all these potentialities in her future. And suddenly I realized that I was living a life that I hadn't imagined, and it wasn't life by design, it was life by default. And I made it my mission at the time, after having woke up that morning and having that epiphany that, like, that's it, the buck stops here. And I wanted to go and have my own sort of version of eat, pray, love. But I didn't have a year to, just take off and leave my 3 kids and my house, my 2 dogs, my job. I had things to do. And I wanted my own eat, pray, love, but I decided what I call it my eat, stay, love.
Right.
Because I found I had that journey of self-discovery right where I was. And since then, that's when I transitioned. I call it my sexier plan. It was sort of, some people have a 5-year plan. I had a 6-year plan at the time, which evolved into a sexier plan because, God, it was sexier. Once I started, I couldn't have imagined what was coming my way. I couldn't imagine the avalanche of just amazingness that came my way. And I started writing and speaking and pursuing my dreams. And that's really kind of catches us up to where I am now. I'm living that life and just enjoying the ride.
Well, I love it. Beautiful, beautiful. And you've written 3 best-selling books, The Secret of the Storyteller, Brave, Ecstatic Woman, and a most recent one that you co-wrote with your 9-year-old daughter, The Search for Maya. Can you tell me a little bit about that mother-daughter dynamic duo?
Oh, yeah,
compilation.
That is the cherry on the the icing on the cake, the cherry on the sundae. That's just the best part of it. So my daughter, who is 10 now, she was 9 last summer when we wrote the book, and of course she'd been watching me. I mean, practically since she remembers, she's been watching me pursue my dreams of writing and speaking. So one day last spring, she said to me, "Mama, I want to write a book with you." And I went, oh. Here I was writing books to empower women and working really, being very diligent in that movement of that women's movement. And here was my number 1 woman inspired and empowered. And if that doesn't, if that is just the biggest emblem of really having succeeded in empowering women. So when she said she wanted to write a book with me, I thought, I melted and got lit up all at the same time. I was on fire. And she wanted, she said, I want to write the book, and I want to do a storyboard just like I've seen you do, and I want to have a book launch, and I wanted to have a cover and a back cover. I want the whole thing. And so we started planning it out and storyboarding, and we took the summer as I call it Camp Mama. We took the mornings, we would write, and then the afternoon was swimming and biking and all those fun summer things. And we wrote the book, and we published it. We wrote it in July, published it in August, and on the day that we published it, it became a bestseller.
Wow.
And here's the greatest thing about that. We set our sights on raising $10,000 from that book to donate to autism awareness because my daughter's on the autism spectrum. And here's where life, I call it the sexier plan, here's where it gets really sexy. So it was sort of like a coming out, and previous to that, I wasn't working in the autism awareness field at all. I was working in women's empowerment, but here was my daughter who became an autism awareness advocate because she's on the autism spectrum.
Yes.
That translated into this whole new branch and division of what I do where the airline, the major airline, I'm not going to mention which one, but let's just say I'm a very proud ambassador of the flagship airline in Canada, then turned around and said, we need to have some of this autism awareness here where we are. Start where you are. Mm-hmm. And as of just a few weeks ago, we launched, or I organized and created and launched the first flight familiarization where we took the kids, they went through security, got their boarding passes, went through security, boarded the flight, and that flight went taxiing, which is driving around the airport for half an hour, and they had their very first flight without ever leaving the ground. And that's called Open Skies for Autism. And it is, I agree, it is unbelievable. And I'm so thrilled to be able to be a part of that and to witness that and to bring it to life. And it's just been an amazing journey.
Oh my goodness, I have goosebumps listening to that. That is just a mind-blowing reality that you created. And I think what I'm learning from you, Merav, is that you don't have any limitations. You've jumped over that hurdle of fear. Once you go beyond that, it's limitless what you can do. And what I can understand from you is that you're teaching people to embrace that there really is no limitation unless you create it in your own mind. So you're just going for it, and you're creating that illustration through what you're doing, which is fantastic.
100%. You're so right, Nikki. That's exactly my second book, Brave, Ecstatic Woman, does actually break down what is brave and how we can look at fear and transmute fear into ecstasy. Because really, your ecstasy begins where your fear ends. So, and I was talking earlier about women being so adrenal, their adrenals are fatigued, cortisol levels are through the roof. Cortisol actually acts like a smokestack. Sort of, the smoke goes up, it billows up, the cap lets the smoke go up, but then when you do try to calm down and do self-care practices like have a bath or have a glass of wine or online shopping, whatever it is that women are trying to do to relieve their stress, well, those cortisol levels can't actually come down. The smokestack closes, and we just continue being adrenally fatigued. And we see that in our bodies and the way our bodies manifest, and that extra weight in the middle, and the lines and the hair, the dried skin, and a lot of those physical manifestations are just manifestations of us not living in that juiciness, that passion, that lusciousness that is our birthright. Ecstasy is our birthright. And so the only way to counteract all that stress, because you can't bring your stress levels down, cortisol won't go back down once it's up. It's the smokestack is closed. The only way to actually bring ecstasy back into life is actually through the other way, through bringing up. Rather than trying to bring stress down, you've got to bring joy, ecstasy, lusciousness, vitality, joie de vivre up. And that's the only way we're going to counter. I actually think we are at epidemic levels in women in our society today, at epidemic levels of stress, depression. 1 in 4 women is on antidepressant or SSRI reuptake inhibitors. Especially then, I know that this is true for myself and true to a lot of the women that I know. Add to it that you have a child with special needs, and it just, the numbers are astronomical, how many women are suffering in silence right now. So in constant pursuit of happiness, bringing your happy back is a goal for me and for yourself and many, many women. And I'm just so happy that you've been the champion for that, so people can recognize the happiness within it. And it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to, happiness doesn't cost anything. It's something that you can choose to have, and it's right at the tip of your fingers. You just have to tap into it. Yes. So I really... just most of the common wisdom that we know about bringing happiness back actually has it back asswards, because we're trying to stress less or fear less, right? When we take that word fearless, it really breaks down to fear less. There's no such thing as fearless. There's no such thing as fearless. There's no such thing as fearing less. Feel the fear. Feel the fear. I mean, that fear is there. There's no such thing as a useless emotion. All emotions, including fear, are there for a reason. But it's when you transmute that fear and do the thing that you're fearful of. You're not trying to fear it less. You're actually acknowledging that there's a fear there and going towards it.
And going beyond it to reach your happiness target. Excellent. Now, Mara, where can people buy the books? Where can we go and tap into all this wisdom?
Well, definitely on all the online retailers, including Amazon.com, Amazon.ca. My website, MeravRichter.com, has links to all of those sites as well. And anytime that I'm in public doing a speaking gig or a workshop, I'm always happy to sign those books. So even if you've bought one not directly from me, bring it next time you see me, and I'll be happy to sign it and give it a nice kiss for you.
Awesome. I look forward to a copy of one of the books when I see you next, the Nikki Clarke Show Live. I look forward to hearing more about all the wonderful adventures that you've taken on in this beautiful life we have, and maybe meeting your daughter one day.
That would be amazing. Yes, she is. She's very great on Facebook Live. She's a wonderful, wonderful. She does a wonderful thing in front of the video camera, and then, funny enough, when she's around people, live people, she's, she doesn't communicate. She's very, very, very quiet. She doesn't communicate, but she has been just overwhelming and just beautifully shocking me over the last few years. She's blossoming, and I wouldn't doubt that she will be a public speaker in her own way, and that's what these kids are here to do, right? They're the crystal generation. Look at Greta. I always pronounce it Thunberg, and they tell me, my daughter tells me that that's not correct. It's Thunberg, but you look at these kids that are coming through today.
She's brilliant as well. Yes.
Yeah, and all, not only bringing awareness for the climate, but also for autism, and for what the focus of how thinking outside the box is actually exactly what we need today.
Absolutely, and they are exceptional children, and they have a lot to teach us. So we're thankful for them. Really thankful.
I agree.
And I'm thankful for you. So thank you so much for your time. I know I've taken a lot of it, but I really am excited to hear about all that you're doing, and I look forward to seeing you very soon live. So, Merav, where can people reach you on social media?
Oh, please find me on all social media, such as Instagram, Facebook. Of course, they also follow me on Brave Ecstatic Woman on Facebook as well, and YouTube, all of the social media channels. And please drop a line. Let me know, private message. I'm always happy to hear from people, and let me know your experience. Let me know what if you've had an epiphany moment or something that changed in a certain time of a certain age. I call it the Venus returns age, because the constellations are in the same place as they were in your birth, and it creates a huge change in women around that 40s age. So let me know if you've gone through that.
Yeah, wait till you reach the 50s. I have, and now I'm in my fabulous 50s, my nifty 50s stage, and it gets even better. Yeah, it gets even better.
Oh. The French say life begins at 40, but by 50 you're just getting better at it.
At 50 you're flying, so it's a good place. Good place. All right, so thank you again, Merav Richter. You've been listening to this fabulous, outstanding author. She's a motivational speaker, two-time TEDx speaker, and she's also going to be a guest on the TV show coming up, Nikki Clarke Show, in the next few days. So look out for that. I just appreciate your time, Merav. Looking forward to seeing you soon. All right.
As am I.
Have a wonderful one. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.